Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and this morning I'm looking at a book from Jordan's Publishing. It's the new edition of Luce on Liquidators, now in the 7th edition. It's written by Peter Luce and Michael Griffiths. This is the book here, just the front cover, the side, there's nothing on the back. The book itself is about 700 pages long. There's a very useful index right at the back. The book itself is structured in the normal way with paragraph numbering at the sides and footnotes, which is extremely useful, I think, to find things quickly. What you do have in here, of course, are substantial details on the statutes, a lot of case law which is mentioned there, and do read the preface, which I think is extremely helpful to start the book off. What you do have in it as well, right at the beginning, is the status of the liquidator, which is there, starting there, and you do have abbreviations which assists in what can be sometimes a bit confusing, though I think this book is actually very helpful for both laymen as well as practitioners. Now, we've given it the title, The Law Relating to Company Liquidations and Winding Up, including all the latest developments, and that's really what the editors have put into this book for the new edition. So if you're involved professionally in the liquidation of a company and the process of winding up, this definitive work of reference from Jordan's is an authoritative and invaluable guide to the role of the liquidator, including the duties, powers and their relationship to creditors, members, receivers and the court. Because it is a bit complicated for those new to the system, but it's one, again with this book, that is reasonably good as a reading document, so you can understand what is actually being put forward as to how the law works. The fact is that in this 7th edition, and of course the 1st edition was published in 1972, it does reflect the roller coaster ride that we've had on boom and bust UK economy policies over the past 4 turbulent decades, from the amazing inflation rates of the 70s, almost up to 30%, to those several 21st century crises which have included the bailouts of banks by us all as beleaguered taxpayers. So you can see that we've had a lot of fiscal problems to deal with. Then, as the authors Luce and Griffiths point out, with no punches pulled, there has emerged, quote, the monetary policy known by the euphemism of quantitative easing, which in plain language is the printing of money, which of course they talk about in a little bit of detail. With these and other woes and the consequent legislation over the years, insolvencies are the predictable result, and this book addresses that. The authors view with alarm the fact that since the last edition of this work there have been further amendments to the insolvency laws by the creation of the Insolvency Amendment Rules 2010, and there's other secondary legislation as well, which, as they mention, often goes through on the nod without proper or adequate consultation or scrutiny by Parliament. These developments are reflected in the book, together, as I say, with the rules, and also there's a substantial amount of new case law covered, which is mentioned in our review, which is on the web and in the journals. For your own further research in this fraught area of law, of course, you've got the detail of the cases, the statutes, the European information and so forth. And there are 5 appendices which are very useful for a convenient volume. For instance, giving an example, there are letters and forms and various other things which I think are very helpful. So to conclude, if you're a practitioner in this or related fields, Luce on Liquidators is both an authoritative and completely updated reference work. It's one you should certainly have in your library, and I'd like to thank Jordan's and the authors for the new 7th edition. Very helpful indeed. Thank you. Bye-bye.